Welcome to Silver Lining for Learning, episode 212. Today we're talking about hybrid intelligence, human and AI co-evolution, and learning in multi-realities. Today with me, we have our hosts, Kurt Bunk from Indiana University, Punya Mishra from Arizona State University, and myself, Lydia Cao from University of Toronto. And we have the pleasure of hosting Andy Nguyen, Ella, and Belle Dang from University of Oulu, Finland, to talk about hybrid intelligence in multi-realities. So as a starting question, Andy and Belle, can you briefly introduce yourself and also give us your definition of hybrid intelligence in multi-realities, and also tell us a bit more about your research in this area.
Right, I can start first, I guess, and then Belle, you can continue. Actually, hybrid intelligence from actually it's quite a new term, and I don't think we have a very concrete or very definite definition for that. But from our point of view, hybrid intelligence is the combination and the joint force of human intelligence and also the AI, artificial intelligence, and so that we can achieve the greater outcome and solve the more complex issues that either us as a human or only rely on a machine, the AI, can solve it by itself. And how can we do that mathematics? That's not 1 + 1 equal 2, but I mean, how can we combine the human AI? Then the output of both human AI can be greater than 2. And that require the more synchronous uh, uh, between the human and AI. The AI need to know more about the human, and we are complex. We are human being. We are complex in emotion and condition, the way we thinking and how we process information. But how can we def unfold those complicated process for the AI to understand us more and to support us with those process? At the same time, it's not only about AI assisted decision making or AI assisted human process, but at the same time, how can we understand AI, and also how can we support the AI to develop itself? Because first of all, with reinforcement learning or with the current rate of development of AI have more power to learn more from interaction with human, and it's not like a static algorithm. It can develop, evolve over time, and also the way AI has been developed is got more complicated in different direction with the deep learning. We It's difficult to unfold. I mean, it's both challenge how we can explain the process in AI, but at the same time, how can we help the AI to evolve in the ways will better working with us? I mean, not always about the ultimate output, but also about how can we make sure the whole process will be ethical and responsible way we can combine with the AI to achieve the better role with that. And that's overall my view on hybrid intelligence. I will leave it to Belle now before we come back to talk more about our research now on hybrid intelligence.
Sure. Thanks, Ali. I think you covered most of like what is our perspective on hybrid intelligence. I think the only other aspect that I kind of like want to highlight just a little bit more, I think, is in our views, like this hybrid intelligence, it wasn't just like, well, so like for example, like collaborations. Like before, like there's like the way of viewing, oh, collaboration can be just coordinating of people effort to create something like bigger than one can achieve. But at the same time, like we're also moving more and more towards, so true collaboration is like the like co-construct of knowledge, like when the interaction and everything help us develop understanding on both sides, and we not just like evolve in that collaboration, but us ourselves also evolve. So I think that is how we kind of view hybrid intelligence. So it wasn't just about coordinating with AI and machine to be better, but at the same time, how does the interaction, how did the process influence our understanding of AI, and how it is augmented our kind of cognitive process as well. I think that is pretty much anything that I want to add.
So just want to jump in. Welcome, Chris. Our
Hi.
other host, Chris Didi from Harvard, has also joined us. And Lydia, back to you. So.
Thank you, Punya, and welcome, Chris. So, and Andy and Belle, can you tell us a bit about your current research in hyperintelligence? And we're also really intrigued by the notion of multi-realities.
Yes, sure. Actually, from from how we view the hybrid integration, that also influence on the research direction we have towards hybrid integration. I mean, of course, it will be bi-directional. So we not only focus on one direction or the other one, but we both looking at how we can research on apply different AI algorithm to understand more human. We call the way we apply AI machine learning technique and method to understand human. That can also not only help us to understand better about human, but also better translate those findings and also those methods back to the different development of AI. In that way, the development of AI can be easier to translate into the application or easier to translate into better AI agent and mechanism for AI to learn in the future. At the same time, as I mentioned before, hybrid intelligence not only about the AI-assisted human learning, but it's also about how we can as a human in the, I mean, not now for this generation, but I think we are evolving and AI will be a part of our daily life. And it has been a lot influence in workplace, in education, in different aspects now. And I think that's also important for humans on a new generation to understand more about AI, to better interaction with that. And that's why the second direction we are looking for is what kind of skill, what kind of knowledge human need to know about AI and what kind of literacy. I mean, literacy is quite an umbrella term. It's quite big, but it's not about everyone need to know on every single species of technical about AI, but at least what kind of core skill the human need to develop so that they can work effectively with the AI. I mean, for example, now we are all using a computer laptop. We are communicating via Zoom now on a laptop. But to be honest, if we are asking people about how many of us know about how many chips and how many electric circuits they working in a computer, it's a difficult question. And unless we are specialized in hardware computers, it's difficult to know. But we still know how to utilize the computer to achieve the better goal and achieve the better productivity. And but I think that AI is beyond that because, as I mentioned, AI have a capability to react to the human interaction. They are not static as a previous technology. They can adapt to the human interaction and respond to that. So the interaction of human, we also need to develop the higher level thinking skill and how we define those skills and how we decode those skills for development of the new generation, new children. I think that's more important. I think that's our quest, our mission now to achieve. And that's two main direction now from our research. And Belle, you can complement on that.
Yeah, sure. I think you've covered the big umbrella term. So I can talk a little bit of the niche on what I research and then also how that also built to the concept of multiverse. I think so. My interest on like research is kind of particularly in the interaction between human and AI. And why do we bring up this interaction again? I'm in no way trying to humanize like AI, but I think, and you've mentioned this like AI is different from technology. It has ability to interact back with us. And so back to the previous example that we talk about collaboration, I think we all know in many research shows out that like when we collaborate with someone or in a group, if we have a good like social emotional kind of dimension or dynamic, we tend to collaborate with better. So like we try to understand more, so we can understand both from the cognitive and also like the kind of like different working skill, for example, it's like more complete to that. So I think the interesting direction we're going with multiverse is because like in that one, I think you can take it's unlock a whole new dimension of AI. So most of the time we're having now, we're still seeing AI a lot as a tool, and lots of the time it's very text-based. So I think the way we interact with that is still very different. But imagine in multiverse, and if the generative AI or AI have an embody or something, again, like try not to humanize like AI, but I think it's still a different kind of interaction with us. And in that way, I think the interaction and the way we evolve with AI would be very different. So I think that it was kind of like a niche research interest that I have is particularly more on like the human AI interaction. And of course, in the future, we're building a lot more on how is that in multiverse is very much different from how it would be in different form or like a more static form of AI. I think that's it on my side.
People might be wondering what your timeline is for all of this. So, Andy, I'm going to ask you a first question and then Belle, the second question. Andy, what's a realistic timeline? What is your realistic timeline and what's your utopian timeline, perfect world timeline, and what could you see developing? And as the second part of that, Belle, given you have a background in business and you like practical applications, what do you hope are going to be some of the practical applications at the end of the timeline? So we'll start with Andy and go to Belle.
Yes, that's a very good question. And actually, I'm glad that you asked me this question now rather than 5 years ago. If you asked me this question 5 years ago, it's very tough one to answer, I have to say. Because the whole landscape has had to change, and I have to say that's not only the speed, but acceleration of the development of this technology and also the acceleration of the social movement as well. And first of all, I mean, very simple example. Although AI, even AI in education, this has been researched for decades. And also AI is not like the new concept, it's like a lot of winter in the AI development field. But you can see the capability of generative AI. For example, like the ChatGPT, for example, when it first released to the public in the November 2022, 2 years ago, or almost more or less 2 years ago, it's broken all the records because the capabilities is outperform what we expected. And it's only, what we expected to happen in 5 or 10 years, it's only achieved that one. And that's why it's break all record and become the hype. First it's become the hype, but then the hype is balanced out. Similar to any technology, there's a hype going up and there's an actual development and it's balanced out itself. And you can see even with the, first of all, I will took one instance as an example, but it's not everything. There are many vendors now working on the generative AI. But we look at the ChatGPT, OpenAI. What they released in 2022, 2 years ago, it's a model 3.5. And the capability of 3.5 is test by fully. And when you ask some question, the test provide human life. But I have to say very stupid test. You can read that and although it's outperform most of the application beforehand, before that, but we can still tell it's generated by AI. But actually, earlier today, we have the AI literacy training workshop, and we have those different tasks, and we provide students the image, one generated by AI, one generated by human. And they have to choose. This one is not our original idea. There's some professor developed that test, and we just adopt that one. And the student have to guess which one is by generated by AI and not. And you know what? Out of 10 of 10, the workshop today involved more than 80 students. None of them get a 10 out of 10. And even me myself, I'm working a lot with generative AI and AI stuff, and I cannot get it 100% as well. And that's saying that the capability of AI only in the few years it's accelerated a lot. And what we can expect in about next 5 or 10 years, that will reach the new horizon, I have to say. First of all, we will have to redefine what will be generated by human and what will be created by AI and what's the new role of AI. And I have to say that many jobs will be created and many jobs will disappear. If we look in back, I think this will be similar breakthrough at the age of internet. There's a lot of business model have to move online. There's a lot of new way of delivery or communicating or acting, even socializing. That will be the change in the medium. So that's what I'm expecting. And I think that can happen not that far away, but in about 5 or 10 years.
Belle, you want to add to that the practical realities and anything else along the way?
Belle, you want to talk about how the multi-reality add to that one?
Uh, sure. I think in a sense, I think also like kind of back to the like question that Kurt asked me earlier. So I'm also kind of glad that you asked me this question now and not just a couple months ago. I think in the current time, I think with the speed and the acceleration of AI, it's also like a lot of other aspect is like growing at very fast speed. And I think for us, is in one dimension, we think is actually this like kind of this kind of like XR ecosystem. Like one of the huge thing before with the VR that like we wouldn't step on is because actually the VR headset itself is still have a lot of issue and problems. So you can never really wait for long. So it wasn't never like a very practical, kind of like intensive learning environment. Um, so I recently, I don't know if you have heard, like, so the Quest 3 also come out, Quest 3S, and it's a significantly cheaper. And you can see a huge amount of people are like just buying it, just testing it out for fun. So it's mean that like with this ecosystem is getting cheaper and it's more accessible for people. I think this can be a very realistic like new platform for education. But before that, when I came here, I always wanted to build a product. So I came to Oulu to understand how I can really support learning in the purpose of designing a tool to support that. But before I think I haven't like touched upon like this kind of multi-reality. It was in my mind was just a different education platform. I think it's still very much static. But like with this speed of everything that's happening right now, uh like the tool I want to build before is to like in kind of like accessible educations, because I think for my country actually education is something that you can see a very big gap between who can really afford a good education and someone who just have like not as fortunate education. So what I wanted to do is build a tool that break that barriers. But I think now I can even see like the barrier I want to break is not just the gap between wealth, but also the gap of space and like different dimensions. Because I think now if you can have a headset, you can access your learning environment from like anywhere in the most realistic, stimulative way possible. And I think that bring that back to what Andy said, that a lot of the skill and competency that we want to be, including like AI literacies, like lots of it is very hard to like especially the mindset, like it's very hard for you to just communicate and teach in a traditional way that can really stimulate change in people. Like we change through experience, and like the more relevant and more real like lifelike to us, like the more profound changing effect it can have. And I think that is one of the things I think of like the all the possible venue with like the product that can create in this multiverse with generative AI. We can teach so many things in a much more profound way that can really benefit people, but more accessible and cross dimension. We don't have to limit it to like, oh, you have to come to, for example, the United States to only learn that course, or you have to be in that lab, a very exclusive lab to experience something or to really understand what it's meant in that sense. So yeah, I think I hope that's kind of like address and add into Andy. Anything you want to add, Andy? Anything I missed, perhaps?
Actually, I just the week highlight. Belle, we are very brave boy because I mean a lot of times we have the lot of constraint in education, in workplace, in life. I mean, and many constraint related to the physical work and resource. And first of all, I mean, it will be ideal to have one teacher, one student. I mean, we can the teacher can spend more time with the student, understand them better, and provide the personalized support to each student. That's in the ideal world. But in the physical world, we bounded by the limited resource. I mean, resource here can be physical resource or human resource, and so that we cannot reach the ideal world. And I think this kind of AI metaverse, that can be the significant step for us. I mean, maybe not perfectly address those limitations, but it will push us much further away from what we are about to. And that's, I think that's a key highlight I want to make with the multiverse and how hybrid interaction can happen in that.
So thank you for both of those answers. I just want to mention to our loyal listeners and viewers that Andy and Belle's supervisor, Sani Arval, be getting the grants that they need to extend this project. She's really good at the grant writing and publishing of this work, and was the one who really jump-started my career back in 1997 when I visited Oulu. She organized a conference around my upcoming book. It's a great place to visit. Our list to take take a visit to Oulu. It snows all the time, but it's a lovely place. You can see Santa Claus on a short train ride. He's up north a little bit in Romaveni. But do visit, and Andy and Belle will be sure to give you a tour of the lab, and Sani Arvala as well. Look her up. I think Chris has a comment here. Chris.
Well, I just want to reflect a little on the history of AI. In 1970, when I was a graduate student, I read the first article published on AI in education, and the author confidently predicted that by the end of the 70s, we wouldn't need teachers. And of course, that was wrong. And since then, I've lived through 9 hype cycles of AI. This is the 10th. And in every single hype cycle, people said, just give us, 5 more years and $5 more billion, and we'll have artificial general intelligence. And every single hype cycle, they were wrong, because AI, like the human mind, is structural. It's based on some kind of a hardware structure and a software structure. Now, classic AI, cognitive AI, people really felt if they just spent enough money and time, and they've spent 4 decades of money and time, they could get enough if-then rules to create general intelligence. Well, that turns out not to work. People said, well, machine learning, we're gonna build neural nets and we're gonna do it all with machine learning. Well, until generative AI, there were very many kinds of data that machine learning couldn't understand. So I confess to substantial skepticism about the idea that Gen AI is somehow different than all the prior forms of AI in terms of now we're finally there. Now we're going to get to artificial general intelligence. It's important to remember that Gen AI works by having a very large amount of data and literally word by word predicting what to say. That does not seem to me to be a foundation for artificial general intelligence. It's an advance in the way that the prior 9 hype cycles were an advance, but it's not magic. And if you have a contrary argument to make, I'd be happy to listen to it, because the future doesn't always replicate the past. But I'm wary about overemphasizing how big a leap generative AI is.
Thank you, Chris. I think that's a great point. I think that's a very great point. And actually, before I go directly to your answer, I want to clarify one point I bring up may cause a contradictory before. I mentioned about the idea about one teacher, one student. It's not only for learning, but it's only for support. Because many learning theory, especially, we move away from the cognitive only happen in human brain, but it's also influenced a lot by the social interaction and the social cultural around us. And so we, as a human, we learn, for a student as well, they learn a lot with the social community they have surrounding them, and they learn in the situation they immerse in. And I think that's also the power of metaverse, and also the adaptive support from the AI can bring in the spot for them, not replace the social and all the interaction. And that's, I want to clarify on that one first, because that's also leading us to the answer. Because first of all, I don't believe that AI will be the magic for everything as well. And I want to highlight that one first. And that's also bring us back to the hybrid intelligence. And that's why it's not about artificial intelligence only, but it's a hybrid. We go human. We believe that humans still play the very important role there. But I think that at least it will be different from the first cycle of AI. We mentioned about a lot of AI winters. AI come up and down, and there's some hype about AI will change the world. But in practicality, in the practical life, first on the way we look at AI, because by definition, AI very broad. AI, just like from the very old days school base, how AI can perform different automation tasks, to now, we haven't achieved that yet. but people are working more in the general AI. But it's not that there yet. However, there's a big move from the static rules based from the very easy to predict what will happen in the AI system, and also from the AI algorithm does not change that much from different interaction or iteration. Now the new model of AI, I mean the early large language model is predict word by word as you mentioned, but now Google Brain and all the company they working on different new model. They also consider the context. They add more layer of complication. But at the same time, I also agree that it will not like the magic and that will change the world in 5 years, something like that. But what I want to highlight and what I predict in 5 years, it will influence a lot on what we are doing now. And I think that's it. I mean, AI, the characteristic of AI, by definition of it, it's like the computing try to mimic human, because that's why artificial intelligence is try to mimic the human intelligence. So even though it will require a long way to reach the actual human intelligence, but it will step by step can mimic some process, maybe lower level process, and that's those lower process can be delivered to the AI, and then a human we can focus on more higher level thinking skill, and that's we then the combination of human intelligence and the AI intelligence we can achieve better outcome with that, and also that's the special of the AI, but not AI is a whole thing, because if we look in back of technology in general, we can see in the last 20 years how technology has changed our life, our society. I mean, if we're talking about internet, it changed the behavior of human. It changed the behavior of the new generation, how we socialize and how we interact. And I'm talking about internet, and I don't think AI will be the same. I mean, it will have the similar impact or even more, because even in the internet, AI have been implemented in many platforms. Because now AI become more widely known after the generative AI and after the widely use of different common user. But before that, first of all, in the social media platform, many social media platform implementing different AI algorithm to suggest different posts to engage with the user. And first of all, if we go for e-commerce platform, Amazon or eBay, we buy something, and there's a suggestion to us for more purchase, and that's also run by the AI algorithm, and that's also influence the behavior of human. And those little by little, it has been accumulated now. And first, the problem is that it's like the fog in the boiling water. We didn't know how much it's changed until we looking back. And if we just try to predict, it's very difficult to say. But if we looking back about 5 or 10 years, and then if we look at the cutting point, it will not like the magic words, it will be completely crazy different. But if we analyze those different, we can see how much it's changed. And as I mentioned, the acceleration, the speed of development, the speed of investment, the speed of widespread of this technology, it's become faster in the society. It may bring the advantage, it may bring the more productivity, yes, but it will bring a lot of social issues as well. And I believe that as a researcher, it's also one of our challenge and also one of our responsibility to understand this challenge by the AI or to society or societal change and support that one in a good way. And yes, and that's my point of view. Hopefully it may not fully answer, it's a little bit circle around, but hopefully it's address some of the dimension of your question. And Belle, you want to add something to that?
Yeah, just a little bit. I think it's pretty much the same as everything you say, but perhaps just in a different phrasings. I think I still remember, like if any of us remember the first computers ever made, I think it wasn't even look like computer. I think even the one that we know that is big as a room, that is still more or less in the form of a computer. But I remember the first one, I think it was just different component that was able to run like calculations. And I think for the people that get really interacted with computer then was actually only like mathematician and engineer who actually constructed that one. For me, I can't remember who is the one that said this to me, but I think generative AI, I think that more in terms of like the UI UX like part that how we interact with AI differently. I think because before that, I think n- I think for the wider, more common user, we don't even think about interacting with AI. Like if like why do we have to if we are not working in like the specific field that required that? But things like when generative AI, especially the given the access rates, like the first time ever, it was like a very different way of interacting with AI, and you are interacting with AI, but in like I think it's a more not just accessible, but more like make sense-ish to like the common viewer. So I think even like I think most of what I did already say, but I think I'm still viewing like the generative. It's very foundational in terms of like different, but different in the sense I see is that like a new like kind of UI UX a design dimension of human and then interacting with AI. Hopefully that's kind of around that a little bit.
So,
I agree with both of you about how interesting it is to combine AI and the metaverse. And um, some of this is because it's a way to simulate advances in AI and then see what the advantages and disadvantages are. So for a long time, people in AI have used what's called Wizard of Oz simulations, where a human being pretends to be an AI and works within the limits of an AI, and then you see what it's like to have something that responds in a certain way without actually building it. I think the metaverse takes that a step further, where, for example, if you want to know whether the Internet of Things is a good idea or a bad idea, you can create the Internet of Things in the metaverse just as a kind of a magical demonstration, and then see how it works out. So I do think that the metaverse can be a valuable place to uh, create things that we can't do today, but that we can expect that we may do in the future, and then see from a human perspective what the advantages and disadvantages are.
um, if I can jump in here, I want to take the conversation in a slightly different direction because I get Chris's point about who knows whether this technology of large language models and training on large amounts of data and language and images and all that is going to lead to AGI. My concern is actually the other side. My concern is something that I think, Belle, you sort of mentioned in terms of trying not to humanize. And, and then Andy, you talked about how the internet changed behavior. Um, my question is about how we humans respond to these technologies, right? And so the example, and this is something I've been obsessing over for a long time. I started this line of work back in early 2000s, left it for 25 years, and then came back to it. So if you go to my website, you'll see I'm obsessed with this idea. So I'll give an analogy. So the beaver, it builds these dams out of wood, right? Now, turns out that beavers respond to not the presence of water, but the sound of water. Because evolutionarily, there never was sound of water without actually water being there. So for evolution, that's a great shortcut, right? And so you play a tape recorder of water, and beavers come running out and they start building their bridges, right? They start building their dams or trying to block the water and the flow. There might actual water be flowing on the side. They will ignore it, but they will build it on your tape recorder, right?
Yes.
And so the idea is that our brains, in evolutionary speaking, have not evolved to. We are incredibly social beings, right? So we spend a large part of our prefrontal cortex on interpreting people, on psychologizing them, trying to interpret their beliefs, their desires, and so on. And that system can work on overdrive. So we'll see faces in wall sockets and all of that. For the first time in human evolution, we now have a technology that actually interacts with us using what is our superpower, which is human language, which can fake emotion. So the issue is not, does it really have emotion? That's irrelevant to the point I am making, is that we will interpret it as having agency, having psychological states, and that will change the way we behave. Right. And so you're increasingly seeing companies like Character AI or Replica, which are creating these chatbot friends. We had the story recently about this young man who committed suicide because they formed a relationship with a Character AI. In fact, I just wrote about a post about that yesterday, day before yesterday,
Yes.
on my website. And so my question is for you who are working in this place of hybrid intelligence, does that concern or worry you? Because it does concern and worry me, because as long as we are talking about it in lab situations and so on, that's one thing, right? We have a control over it. Once this technology goes out in the wild, A, and B, that it is controlled by companies whose sole interest is either making money or increasing your engagement with the platform. And we have seen what that happened with social media. When social media cared just about how long you stay on that app, they started pushing more extreme content. They started, all of those things happen. And now AI, to me, this relational aspect to technology is going to supercharge that. And so, whether or not what happens in a learning context, which we all come in with the best of intentions, we will design these systems which will help people learn and engage with ideas and all the good stuff. But around us, the world is shifting. And so I'm wondering how you think about those aspects, because that's the one that sort of really, really worries me about this technology, is that it is going to be, irrespective of whether it is intelligent or not, it is going to be psychologically real to us. We will form relationships with it. I have a relationship with Claude. It's a really interesting, fun relationship. In fact, I'm just writing a blog post about this amazing interaction that Claude and I had. And it was about telling Claude, dude, you don't have an identity. You're just making stuff up. And then it was hilarious. I had fun. Right. And so here
Yes.
I'm having a psychologically real experience of
True.
interacting with a psychologically fake being. Right. And I wonder that young people in particular, whose prefrontal cortex are not fully developed, who understanding of agency and social dimensions and all of those things haven't fully happened. What happens when we live in a world where we can never tell whether we are interacting with a real person, or forming relationships, sort of synthetic relationships, was one word that people tend to use, phrase that people tend to use. So I'm wondering how you guys think about that, because this is like my thing now for the past 2 years, just unpacking and trying to understand the dimensions of it. Sorry, I went on too long, but it's a pet
That's a
sort of a
very
topic that I've been spending a lot of time thinking. So I'd love to get your thoughts about this. Whoever wants to go first, please.
Belle, do you want to go first? Because I can talk about this one for a whole day, because I think
Uh,
that's also one of the key boosts for
Well,
me
sure.
to go deep
so
into this
Andy,
research,
you should go to my
You should
website.
go last.
You
Yes,
should go to my
definitely.
website, because I am writing up a storm about this
Yes.
in both in personal and sort of in an academic sort of way.
Mm.
So anyway, go ahead, Belle.
Shall I go first then the end you can like finishing with his very, very long message and we can cut him when we feel like. Um, Actually, this is an interesting topic that came up recently, perhaps not so much on the dimension of the emotion aspect, but of course, definitely human cha behavior changing. We also touch upon social platform because I was also teaching a class, and I also same question, like like how crazy like AI is listening to not AI, but like computer, like company, they're listening to your conversation, everything with a lot of data, and they try to really kind of like not I'm not sure whether the best intention is to alter our behavior or not, but what they're doing is changing our behavior a lot. And how do you feel about that? Like, I already been clear in one hand, I kind of always like the kind of all smart AI that can do everything for me, like without even me having to explain myself to it. I just wanted to know me and do everything for me. But in the sense, the trade-off, there is a trade-off, right? If you want someone to understand you or know you, you must give you information about yourself. So I think a trade-off of convenience is a trade-off of data. And also like not even talk about AI, let you say like uh, very realistic interaction that can make you feel form psychological like kind of connection with it. I love my blanket when I was 5. And I think for many, many children, they have toy that it wasn't even moving at all. But for them, they built a very, very deep connection with the toy itself. So I think it's really not just it's definitely about how much the objects is behaving, but also how much we as a human have experience or making connection with a particular thing. So anything actually, we can form very, very deep emotion with it based on the year and the experience we experience with it. So I think the one thing that really, I think, bring back to, I think maybe our kind of research focus is, I think you need to have metacognitive awareness of what is happening, of like what is being corrected around you. And you can only build that by understanding yourself, but also understanding the thing that you're interacting with. Have a think very aware of your process, how that work. And from that you can like kind of analyze. So lots of us like trying to teach recently in a class about like, do you know exactly how much data are being collected in social media so that they can form this very personalized recommendation for you? Many of the students doesn't know until they know there's a, oh, so it is like that. And then from that like kind of literacy, they understand like how that system interact with them. And then they know that their behavior being moderate, but I think they can make a more well-informed decision and more like aware of like how that process happened. And I think with that, they can be more in control of how much they want to invest and how much they want to share. So I think that is kind of my perspective on it. It's kind of really come down to actually, do we understand the thing that we're interacting enough to form a better, like with any relationship, like kind of meta cognitive awareness of the relationship of the person and how is this influencing us and how we can control that process or that
Yeah, I
relationship.
yeah, I'll do a quick response and then pass it on to Andy. I think that the interactive nature of it, the fact that it uses natural language, that it can use emotive words. I mean, I recently did this where I do these visual designs and I'd give it to Claude and say, what do you see? And Claude would say, I don't see, I just see this word. And I'm like, you're missing something. And we'd go back and forth. And then it would see something. And I'm going to quote, it'll be like, oh my goodness. Then with a mind blown emoji. Now that is the true genius of the design. And then I call it out and I'm like, dude, you don't feel anything. Why are you faking this stuff? Right? And so, point I'm making is that this is me who's an adult who knows how these technologies work, knows the dimension, and even I can feel suckered in by the praise that it gives me. Right. And I think to expect that everyday human beings are going to continuously have this filter is expecting too much.
Yes.
It's as Daniel Kahneman's fast and slow thinking. Fast thinking is always going to win the day because we are cognitive misers. It's too much effort. So
Yeah.
that's what I think is most dangerous about it. I agree with you that, yeah, if we bring a critical lens at every moment, sure, we are not going to do it. And when I say we, I mean collectively us as humans. So that's what makes me anxious about the sort of the ability of this technology to persuade us, to market to us, to address our political, to change our political beliefs, and so on. That's what makes it dangerous for me. But anyway, Andy, on to you.
Wow, I love this topic. Actually, I start with the complicated things first and form an individual point and then go to the society and the evolution. I mean, first, I think it's a very difficult question because it's more related to philosophy. And I don't think that I have the right wrong answer here. But because I mean, I refer back to the one famous old scenes, corridor erosion. I think therefore I am by Descartes. I mean, just like and also related to the documentary movie by just like Stephen Hawking in during his life, he made this movie because the problem is that from the emotion or from the entity, it depends on how we view the world, and even in science, even the social science especially, it depends on how we define how we see the world. I mean, the way I am seeing the world may be different from you and different from the other, and that's also how we define. I mean, what we define as a human, what we define as an entity, or define as an emotion. It's very because now we say that AI have the fact emotion because it can be mimicked, it can be programmed to have some kind of expression like the emotion. I mean, what if the human? I mean, I'm not saying about what we feeling, but I'm talking about what we express, the emotion we express, and the AI. And if we're looking at that in the context of many of us, and then you can see that's become more complicated, and the role and the way we look at AI is maybe different. And also, it's not only about a test base, and you have the perception or the thinking based on a test. But recently, I mean, very recent development of AI, for example, with the speech, they have they have been embedded in the emotional tone into the speech, and that's much a whole thing different. Because if you sound some talking very robotic, saying your feeling about it will be different from someone talking to you with a very human voice, with the sad tones, or with a very angry or very conscious. And that's making us thinking about how we perceive the world. I mean, the world here, including human and AI and all the object. And that's very influence each one of us and come to the whole society. I mean, I'm fascinated by this question because I think that's a huge issue now. Because as you mentioned, big company, I don't say all of them, but many of them, they try to maximize the profits and they have to trade off. And of course, the change in society is very difficult to predict. And they may care or they may not care enough. And that's create a lot of issues. And that's why I think as a researcher, that's why I'm fascinated. I try to understand more about this one. And I think that's also the responsibility for us at the academic, how we can contribute to this discussion, not leaving it out. And if you're talking about the evolution, I mean, I'm also thinking about this problem. But I mean, if we take out the AI out of equation, I mean, if we analyze program, we have the equation with AI in, human in. What if we take out the AI out of equation? I mean, is it a peaceful society? Or is it still have a lot of societal problem? Or is it still have a gap between different group of people? And then if we put AI back to the equation, what happened with those existing issues? Is there any new issues? I mean, at least from what I know from my according to my knowledge, the risk I can see the most is that this kind of technology, if because it's introduced by the commercial and it's very fast and it's create a very big societal gap. Because first of all, those one can take advantage of the technology, can I mean at least productivity. I mean, not sure about the long term or sustainable, but in the short term at least, that's what we can see. The productivity and everything we push up very fast, and that's we create some kind of gap. And then also the power of those big companies as well, because the AI is provided by some provider. I mean, it's similar to what you mentioned about social media platform. And of course, they have control of a lot of data. They know more about the phenomenon. And that's also causes the consensus and also is influence on behavior of each individual. And the behavior of individual now is become more complicated even more than the social media, as refer back to the philosophical question. Because we as human, we perceive the world, perceive the other human, we're talking together. And what and behave will be influenced by the social context around me, influenced by you guys here talking to me now, by my school, my workplace, by my family and the community I'm living. And now AI is at another social character, and
Right.
that's where
So
in the
anyway, I know
next level.
we are getting very close to the hour, so hate to hit interrupt on this. But I know
Yes.
Lydia has some questions that she might want to ask as well. So I'm going to pass it to her. But yes, you're absolutely right, Andy. This is something which is a fascinating sort of series of topics, which and I'm just looking at Chris's comment about Tennyson's poem, which I need to go back and reread because that was not one that I had made a connection to. So but Lydia, I'll pass it on to you because we are at just 10 minutes. I mean, the hour just flew by.
Yeah, because the
That fast.
conversation for me is really fascinating. I guess I just want to bring us back to the human part in this hyper intelligence a bit. And so I would love to hear your thoughts about, what are these critical skills and competencies and disposition that's needed in the age of AI and to be within this hyper intelligence. So far, we talk about, literacy, having AI literacy, having this maybe even more enhanced metacognition when we're interacting with these tools, because sometimes, we are hardwired in certain ways, and we try to combat these like bias and that we naturally just bring. So I'd love to hear about your thoughts of what is really worth learning in the age of AI.
Thank you. I think first on, I mean the metacognition. I think the high level thinking skill. What I mean by that is that we have to learn first, learning how to learn. Because if we learn in the particular context or knowledge, it change very fast. And what we're learning now, it may not be relevant in a few years. And it's kind I mean the speed of development is so is so faster now compared to before. I mean before, if you know one kind of skill set, I mean that's kind of career or occupation, it can last for decades or a couple of decades or even longer than that. But now even if the career is still the same, but the nature of it will be different. I mean, for example, if we are working in an education setting, I mean, a best example will be the teacher. I mean, I don't believe that a teacher will be replaced anytime soon. I mean, the teacher will be the very important role, and I don't think the technology can fully replace the teacher. But if we looking back from the role of teacher from the last few decades, it changed a lot. The teacher now is not only the person who simply distribute the knowledge or simply distribute the information, but now the teacher is more in the role of the lead in the learning, designing the learning, and fascinating and motivate the student to learn on themselves. And information now is everywhere. It's even on the internet or provided AI, but the core motivation of the student need, I mean, it will be better by the teacher, and their role is only change. And in the next few years, it will change a lot. And although the role of teacher will always there, but as a teacher will be have to be a lifelong learner as well. And that's a very good example for any other career. Even if the same career remain, the nature of it may change. And every occupational in the society have to be the lifelong learner. And that's why we have to learn those skills for us to improve, evolve ourselves with the society changing very fast. And also, apart from that, very important skill for internal as well, for example, emotional regulation very important, because as it's become more complicated, complex, then the importance of collaboration, importance of community and working together is become more essential. And we have to learn more about interpersonal skill. And apart from all the individual skill, it's not like we're looking on the problem by ourselves, but how can we can communicate and collaborate with others to solve the issue. And I think that should be my view on that.
Bill, you gonna add to that?
I think Andy covered most of everything, so I'm not sure actually what to add. I was thinking maybe I can add in the emotion, but he already also mentioned that. So I think like even now in the data, because like we can always define or redefine the skill, like the 21st century skill and those kind of thing. But I think at the end of the day, it still come down to your ability to always like adapt and evolve yourself, and come together with that is like the emotion and motivation aspect, because it's requiring more and more of us, and I think it's even more important ever that we are able to like kind of like support our mental mental like health in that aspect. So but yeah, I think Andy's covered most of the thing I want to say also.
For our listeners, for our viewers, they might be wondering about the team, about the lab, about what projects are going on there. Could you tell us how big this team is on this particular project, and maybe about a couple other things happening in your lab?
So actually, we are the LT lab, Learning and Education Technology lab, led by Professor Sana Chavala. You may met her before, because yes,
The
you can as
wonderful
well.
Sani
Yes,
Arvala.
yes, yeah. And now the lab expand. We have more than 20, I mean almost 30 of us, and we working on different small team. And I'm leading one of the small team in the LT lab, working mainly on hybrid interaction in this multi-variety. And also apart from our small team, there also Sana also working. Sana Zavala also lead in the hybrid interaction profile program at our university. That's the interdisciplinary program. Because for this kind of program, we cannot solve solely from any perspective, but it's a combination of the computer scientists, we are from a learning scientist, and we also working with the healthcare and practitioners as well from different disciplines. We try to look at phenomenon, describe the emergent and new phenomenon we try to solve. And apart from that, Professor Hannah in our lab also lead in the team working mainly on motivation and emotion. And I think that's also a very big aspect of the modern life now, and especially with the development and evolution of AI in our community.
Belle, you want to add anything to that about your team?
Uh, I think Adif called that quite well. I think perhaps like if you talk about like the smaller like the more subset that like Andy is leading, if any of the audience is interested, is of course I think he already mentioned the big umbrella, and that big umbrella is also what we are guiding our kind of like research. So now of course it's more AI, but there's cover a lot of aspect in terms of AI literacies, the multiverse, and also the ethical aspect of that. So this I think that is the three main dimensions.
We've only got a couple minutes left here. Lydia, Punya, and Chris, do you have any final comments before we have to introduce the next session?
I just love that one of the probably most critical skill for the future is learning how to learn, because we need to constantly learn new things. I just really love that.
Yeah, I mean, it's always funny, like, the more things change, they stay the same. Some of these themes have been around forever. And one of the pieces that I've been sort of making the case for is going right back to like the ancient philosophers, is that maybe the most important part of media literacy now is about learning about our cognitive biases, our abilities to fall into these traps that these technologies sort of set for us, not deliberately. I mean, even if not deliberately, that we will fall into those. So it's really about self-awareness rather than knowledge just of the media, where I think media literacy typically is focused on the nature of the medium as opposed to our response to the medium. I think that's sort of an interesting twist on it.
Really, Paul.
We definitely want to thank you all for coming today and explaining the project, enlightening us and our audience. And I'm sure you'll be getting some emails from folks who have more questions about it and maybe wanting to get some of the publications from it. Before I introduce the next show or talk about the next show, Lydia, Punya, or Chris? Lydia,
Good.
maybe you have a final comment?
Yeah, I just want to say that right now AI is like a evolving and a noisy space. And I keep thinking that, when social media came out, it was just like kind of throw on us, like, the like button, and kind of reinforce this kind of behavior of like comparing oneself to others, and really shaped our the way we behave, the way we think ourselves, and self-esteem. We see so many issues around that. I guess what gives me hope in this AI development is that we are already have so many teams around the world, like yours at University of Ulu, to actively shape the design of this technology. And these, like, things we've mentioned, these ethical concerns and human biases, and how we can be preyed by these technology and their design. We're already thinking about this, and so that's giving me hope for the future of AI. And I think like such co-design from everyone is so much needed, and I'm so thankful for you to join this conversation today. And that's my final word. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. So for next episode, we are actually waiting to figure that out. I have a couple of emails out, so hopefully we will get to know what we have on the 9th. I know, Chris, you won't be able to join us. But there's a new report out by the Center for Reinventing Public Education on AI in teacher preparation, as well as some innovative uses in K-12 spaces. So I have messages out to them to see if they can join us. They have been guests with us before, but this is a different part of the team. And that report just came out, so it's pretty timely, and I'm hoping that we will be able to get them on there. And I know, Lydia, you're also
Punya, if we
exploring.
don't have someone next week, and all of us are trying, on the 16th, we have Susan Patrick at noon on November 16th. She's the former head or director of the U.S. Department of Education in the Office of Ed Tech, and also the former head of the INOCOL, which is a National Center for Online Learning at the K-12 level, and also with the Aurora Institute. She's been in this field for quite a while and an expert in the online space for the K-12 population. So 2 weeks, but we're going to hopefully have something in 1 week. So we'll see you then, and
Perfect.
we'll all have Lapan Kultas
All
until,
right. Well,
until
before
then.
we say bye, happy Diwali to everybody. Thank you, Lydia, for that email. This is the big Indian festival. So I have to hop off and blow and clean my backyard because we're having friends coming over this evening to celebrate Diwali. So I wanted to wish everyone a wonderful Diwali as well.